For USCFootball.com, I'm Nicole Shearin here with Anthony Gharib for instant analysis of USC basketball's 91-71 loss to Arizona at the Galen Center tonight. So Anthony, this broke a 6-game win streak the Trojans had. Their last loss was actually against Arizona in the McHale Center. What were your initial thoughts after this game?
Well, it was bad. It was real bad. Poor offense from the start. They just couldn't get any momentum. The turnovers just piled up nonstop. The defense was obviously not there. I mean, Arizona shot 55%. If this was a 20-point loss, the game was not closer than 20 points. It was worse than that. Really, throughout the first half, it was pretty obvious USC's offense just wasn't there. Had one of their nights, those classic USC nights where they can't score, they go on bad slumps, they start turning the ball over. It was just bad. It was bad. Andy Enfield mentioned after the game that you got to just flush it down. He was more optimistic than I might have imagined. You know, he highlighted, oh, this is our 5th loss. You know, we haven't really been beat down like this. I guess it's better they're beat down now before it goes into the tournament. But he was bad. I mean, the offense was really poor. How many people? 3 people scored double figures, and that didn't happen until late into the game. USC didn't have double-digit points on offense until about 11 minutes in the first half. You can't play like that against Arizona, number 2 ranked. You can't play like that against any team and expect to win. So that offense really hurt them. It really, really hurt them. And we've seen it before where they lack that consistency. And on a big stage, in a game where if you want to try to win a Pac-12 tournament, you have to show up. They didn't show up on offense. And practically their defense as well. It was a poor game all around. But you got to move on, flush it down. You've got a lot to build from this going into UCLA, and hopefully they can come back from it.
So Arizona had 30 points in the paint in the first half compared to USC's 14. Anthony, tell me a little bit about what that means for this Trojan defense and why Arizona was able to produce like that in the paint in the first half.
Yeah, a lot of penetration from Benedict Mathurin, sophomore guard for Arizona. He only had 8 points in the first game against USC. He had 14 in the first half today. So he was on fire. He was hitting shots from outside, but he was just penetrating in the paint. They were really breaking through that defense and just getting easy buckets, throwing alley-oops, getting dunks. Christian Coloco, I think, had about 9 points, but those were basically all dunks. He was just dunking the ball. Azuolas Tubelis, talented forward, 2 for 5, 6 points, but the points in the paint seemed like they were just getting whatever they wanted, really, on offense. And that's pretty disheartening. A USC team that's one of the best in the nation on defense, to give up that many points in the paint, it really hurt them. And, you know, I don't have the answers to why that happened. I thought, you know, coming in, they matched up well in that front court, but it happened. I think Mathurin posed a real big threat. Their outside threat, Kirk Kriso, was also great from deep. I think he had, check here, 4 of 10. That's not great shooting, but 4 threes is still good. And I think that really just put more pressure on that perimeter defense, and they were able to get into the paint easily. But USC, obviously, as the game went on, the game was out of reach in the second half. They started playing better defensively, but the game was out of reach. It didn't really matter. So points in the paint, I thought was a key distinction, and I was pretty surprised by that total.
So Enfield said in the press conference just now that a poor Trojan offense really produced a poor Trojan defense, and USC had 12 total turnovers with 8 in the first half. Do you think that was a large part of this loss tonight?
Yeah, definitely. Turnovers played a part. I think in the first half they had 9 turnovers and they had 9 field goals. So same amount of turnovers and field goals. It's not good. You just can't get any consistency, any momentum on that side of the ball. I think it definitely played a part. I mean, every loss that USC's had, turnovers have really hurt them. And a team like Arizona that plays fast, that gets in transition, you can't turn the ball over. And Enfield mentioned that as well. He said the turnovers got him to a point where they were just playing so fast in transition, USC couldn't get a stop. And that's really what happened. You know, going into UCLA, they didn't turn the ball over that much in that first meeting. That's probably going to be a key distinction. Can they take care of the ball? But that really hurt their offense for sure, because when you don't get stops, it gets frustrating. You want to start scoring, but then when the ball's not going, you start turning it over, the frustration starts mounting, and then it gets more difficult. So that's really what happened.
So Arizona had 5 players who scored double digits tonight. What does that have to say about the Trojan defense when it comes to playing against a team where the majority of the team are very good basketball players?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Matherin was the leading scorer, 19 points. Kurt Kwisa at 18. Dalen Terry at 11. Omar Ballo, 11. Justin Kier, 12. I mean, yeah. I mean, they were just firing on all cylinders. I mean, you can't win a game if you got that many players in double figures on the other side. So it's something I think in this game, it's not something that's too concerning because USC has really shut down the other team and they've played strong defense. I truly believe this is an outlier in terms of the amount of players that reach double figures. I think 5 obviously is a lot, but in a game where there's 91 points, it's bound to happen. Where Arizona scores 91, you're gonna have 5 or 6 players in double figures. They almost had 6. Coloco had 9. It's bound to happen. I don't think it's a problem, something that they're going to be worried about because this is still a great defensive team. This is one game that they just got beat. That's what Andy Edford was saying, and I believe that too. You got to move on from this. You got to find a way to get out and just not let it get to you mentally. And I think that's what they're going to do. Obviously, it's not good, 5 players in double figures, but it happens. 91 points in a game, you're going to have that.
The last time USC really faced a big loss like this was when they played Oregon for the first time with no fans in the Galen Center. Tonight, they lost pretty badly. So how do you think that this mindset going into playing UCLA affects this Trojan team at all? They
sounded pretty confident after the game. Well, I wouldn't say confident, but they weren't too demoralized. Isaiah Mobley, Drew Peterson talked after the game, and they said, Isaiah Mobley, this is our 5th loss. We know what we're capable of. It's better to have it now than later. Drew Peterson said, if we're itching at that idea of playing them in the tournament, the conference championship game, I don't think that this will hurt them going on. I think this is something that you want to build upon and try to figure out, okay, we played wrong, played bad. This is where we made mistakes, and this is how we can fix it. That's really all you can do. Blowout is never good, especially at home. The last home game of the season, the whiteout, you got so many people in attendance. It's a bad look, but I think they'll get through it. This is an experienced team. They've dealt with it. The Oregon loss was obviously tough, but this one I think on a national stage is as tough, even tougher, especially because it's a number 2 ranked team. So I think they'll be fine. I think they'll get through it. Tournament obviously going to UCLA. They beat UCLA. UCLA is also having its troubles right now. That's another huge game, but this is a team that's kind of shown that they're able to play in those big games, even though they just lost tonight.
So USC has a track record of playing to its competition against Oregon State, double overtime, to a team that's not ranked. How do you feel that, maybe not tonight that didn't occur, but how do you feel that that sort of momentum going into the Pac-12 championship tournament and ultimately March Madness affects this Trojan squad?
It can affect them, definitely. You don't want to play, let's say if they're a 6 seed playing 11 seed, depending on who that 11 seed is, you don't want to play down to them. You just want to play your game. It can definitely affect them. You could lose games like that Oregon State game, the double overtime game. That was a team that was 3-23 going into that game. They played UCLA the game after that, and they got blown out. So, that's a habit that is built over the season. It's built over time, and I think it's difficult to get over that. It's going to take time. So obviously it's difficult to go into March Madness, go into that conference tournament with those habits. They just have to play their game. They play how they want to play because you can't play down to competition. It's going to hurt them. But we haven't necessarily seen it happen too often. Oregon State is really the main example. So depending on who they play in the first round, depending on what happens in March Madness, that's something to keep an eye on for sure.
Regardless of the outcome, the Galen Center was filled with fans, all decked out in white for the whiteout. How do you feel that the fans swarming the Galen Center for these big games really affects the Trojans' performance?
I think it definitely hypes them up. You want to play in packed arenas, especially at USC. This is a storied school, obviously, with athletics, and you hear about all the other blue blood schools, as they say, with the packed arenas. You want to play in that environment. Obviously, it looks good for recruits. When you're recruiting players, you kind of give them an example. Hey, people are going to come out. If the team is good, I think it hypes up their performance. I think all the players want to play better. You want to get the win. Every momentum play becomes 1,000 times much more fulfilling. Obviously, we saw that against UCLA. We didn't really see it tonight. There weren't many momentum plays, to be honest, but it definitely impacts their play. It just adds more juice and energy to you. You want to get better, you want to improve, and you want to win the game. But obviously, it's demoralizing once you lose. All these people come out. You don't know, will they come out again? it is what it is. You can't think of those what-ifs, but it definitely impacts their performance in a positive way. I don't think it's any negative impact.
Now, this may have been the final game in the Galen Center for the Trojans, but USC heads to Pauley Pavilion on Saturday to take on rival UCLA for the second time, looking for that Bruin sweep. So, Anthony, do you have any final words before we leave the Galen Center tonight?
Yeah, definitely. You got to get out with the win, go into a positive note. Losing back-to-back games going into the tournament is not a good look. It just doesn't help. But, that's a game where it's a huge momentum booster going into the tournament. If you go to Pauley Pavilion, you beat them on the road, you close on a high note, basically because they're basically playing for second in the conference now, because obviously Arizona's clinched it. Oregon will be fourth, so it's up to UCLA and USC 2 and 3. And if you get second, you don't play Arizona until basically the final game of the tournament. So that's huge. It's a huge, obviously, rivalry game, huge implications. I think it'll be something that's gonna be a huge momentum boost for them. They've got to take care of the ball. I'm interested to see how Boogie Ellis responds. He didn't score against UCLA. He had a poor game tonight. Shot, I think, 3 of 11, 8 points. He's got to step up. How about Peterson step up? He was 2 for 11. Isaiah Mobley, 3 for 12. Those are storylines. How is the offense going to react? How will the defense be? Because that UCLA team, they've lost 5 in a row against USC. Some of them are tired of losing against USC. They'll come out with some energy at Pauley Pavilion. The first game with fans there in 2 years against USC. It's going to be a crazy atmosphere. And USC has to take care of the ball, have to be smart on offense, and they'll probably get the win if they do that.
Well, that's going to do it from the Galen Center for the final time this season. But for Anthony Gharib, I'm Nicole Shearin, and check out uscfootball.com for more.